Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I'm Lauren. I'm a wife and a new mom. I came up with the idea of this podcast after struggling to find mommy groups around me when my son was born. I wanted a community of mothers I heard so many of my friends talk about when they had their children. This podcast is to help mothers like me that want a community of mothers to connect with when they have their free time. Together with my usual guest, Taryn, and other mothers, we will share our experiences, not our advice, through motherhood, and hopefully get some tips from you, the listeners. So come join us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Today, I am here with Taryn.
Hi.
I know. I feel like 4 in a row. We've got this going on.
I know, right? So lucky.
Yes. So today, Taryn and I are going to talk about what it was like for me to go back after maternity leave. I was a little I don't want to say apprehensive. I definitely did not want to go back to work.
No, you did not. You did not want to go back to work.
I love every second I get to spend with my son, and I don't want to, I would say I had to go back to work. Mm-hmm. It was a necessity for us both to be working, and we had a great plan. Mm-hmm. When I was going to go back, we had both our mothers were going to come and stay with us and watch our son. So he was going to be almost 4 months when I went back to work. Yeah. Which I still didn't want him in daycare. Mm-hmm. And I know people have to put their kids in daycare at 6 weeks. And I don't know how you do it. I know you must have to, because
there's no choice.
There's no choice. And that must be so hard for you. I knew I could not do that. I did not plan that, my pregnancy would work out, because you can't plan stuff like that. But, it just worked out that I'm a teacher. And it was the end of the school year, so I just took the rest of the school year off. Yeah. And I was going to return in the fall. And I remember in July, I was like, I don't think I could go back. I just can't do it. We had this great routine.
I remember being worried that I was going to have to adjust to a new co-teacher, because I was like, she's not coming back. Oh my God.
I know. And it was so hard. And I remember my boss probably called me twice in the summer, and she's like, so you're coming back, right? I was like, well, that's the plan. Yes. And I kept thinking, I was like, I remember they said I didn't technically have to come back till October. I'm like, so maybe I won't come back until October. And so like that was probably more of what I was thinking I might do, is just not come back until October, because I still had my, I could use some of my family medical leave time during that. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that. And I toyed with that back and forth. And then I broke my leg and I couldn't watch my son. So it didn't matter anyways. I was going back to work. So the plan is that my mom was going to come at the end of August and stay for September. And then my husband's mom was going to come for October and November. Well, until Thanksgiving. I have no idea when Thanksgiving was, but
it was at some point towards the end of November.
Right. And then my mom would come again. And my mom was just here anyways, for Christmas anyways. So, but I only needed her until we were out of school for our winter break. And that plan worked out wonderfully. I'm very grateful that my son was able to have time with his grandmothers, both of them, for such an extended period of time. He knows them. Yeah. He knows when he sees them. He knows who they are. I can leave them with either one of them, no problem. And he is absolutely fine.
That's great.
Except for the part that he only wants to be with me to begin with. But if I leave the room, he's fine, whatever. And if I leave them with him for a few hours, again, he's absolutely fine. He knows them. He'll play with them. He wants to be with them. So it's all good. And I will say that at the beginning of my when I returned to school, of course, I still didn't want to be back to school. Right. Some of it was my leg. Some of it was my child. And I would want to leave the second I could from school. Yep. To be home. And it was a very different adjustment from me, from going from it doesn't matter what time I get home from work to Now it matters what time I leave in the morning and what time I come home.
Right.
It was easier at the beginning when my mom and my husband could watch my son as I was getting ready and whatnot, and they could do things for me so I could get ready. There was that extra set of hands, so that helped. And then coming home, I just always wanted to make sure I was home on, like, we can leave at 2:40. I was leaving at 2:40 every day, so I could be home to be with my son. And it was great because at that point still my son wasn't really walking, you know. So you could just still put him someplace. So I could still make dinner. He could just be in his rack and play, and I could make dinner.
Yeah.
So I could be with him, but not necessarily holding him, having to entertain him.
Right.
Whatnot.
But at least be an entity that's there, an energy that he's feeding off of.
And if he was having a tough day and really wanted to play, then, oh, look, grandma's here to watch you, which I didn't realize how much I needed that extra set of hands to watch my son as I was cooking dinner. But it was really nice because we got to all eat together as a family. And my son started eating solid foods in September. So he got to, eat with us around the table also. So that was kind of nice. And I just kind of got into a routine and I was kind of used to it. And I knew I didn't have any days to take off just to hang out with my son.
This needs to be a good year.
So I just came up with the fact that I was going to try it for a year and see how it goes. And I'm like, and we'll go from there. And that's
totally
all you can
fair.
do.
Totally fair.
And as a teacher, you have that ability where you're not working all the time, meaning that you get little days sprinkled off here and there. You get that week between Christmas and New Year's off. You get a week off in the springtime, and obviously you get off in the summer.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of helped knowing that I had those times. I remember at Christmas time, I was just so excited to be home alone in the house with my husband, myself, and my son, and just do stuff just with my son, because everything before that had to be with someone, not in a bad way, but just I never
matter of fact.
Right. It was just, that's just what it was. Like, I couldn't always drive, with my leg, and I couldn't always, even when I could start driving, I couldn't always pick up my son. My ribs were actually still an issue then, so I could not always pick him up on my own. So even though I could go out, I had to bring someone with me. So I had 0 alone time, basically from when I broke my leg until Christmas.
I would die. I need alone time. I thrive when I have alone time. Oh my God, I'd go crazy.
Yeah, so it was really, really hard on me to not have that alone time. So I was really looking forward to it. So it wasn't that I wanted to get like my mom and my mother-in-law out of the house. It was just, even now, like, I'm hardly in the house ever alone. Just me. I mean, me and my child all the time, but just me. I couldn't even tell you the last time that happened.
I think it's been at least 15 months.
Yeah. So it's just a very odd feeling. And then in January is when I would say it started to get a little harder.
Yep.
Because I didn't realize how much I needed that extra set of hands when I came home from work. Because I would come home with my child who still needed to be held.
Yeah.
And I was carrying all this stuff, and I'm like, I can't even put this stuff away because I have him, and I can't do this because I have him. And it's like, I'm very grateful that I had my son, obviously, but it made things more complicated that I couldn't just be like, can you watch him for 5 minutes?
Right. Like the simple things that you don't think are ever going to be a challenge become like the impossible.
Right. So I had to like come up with I was like, okay, I'd come in, I'd put him in this, I don't know, bouncy thing, and he would probably cry the entire time, but I just needed like 3 minutes to bring in everything from the car, go to the bathroom, and grab him. Like, that's it. So that was pretty much the routine every day.
Yeah.
And then I had to do in February. Oh, and by the way, January we like didn't eat anything at all, like because I could not figure out how to have a child and cook, and my husband was still working, and it was very hard. So I don't even know what we ate, and I just think about all those times I judged these mothers for going to McDonald's or doing all this other stuff. I'm like, I get it now. I just need to keep my mouth shut.
I was going to say, when our kids were about 6 months old is when we started being like, you know what, it's okay if we don't cook dinner at home every day.
Yes.
Because we used to cook dinner at home, and then once a week we would go out for a date night. And then once we had kids, it crept up because we were like, we just don't have the capacity to be able to do everything. And now that they're 10, it's creeping back down again. Now it's more my motivation to actually cook that gets in the way than like my ability to be able to do it.
They also like could make a sandwich if they really needed to.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so.
And like now they'll ask to make dinner. So I'm like, tell me what you want me to buy at the food store and I will pick it up. This is amazing. Just don't burn yourself or start a fire and we'll be good.
So I would say January was our toughest transition. It was tough to figure out because my son started daycare at the new year. And it was tough figuring out packing up all the food because I never had to pack up the food. I hate packing my lunch so much. If there was ever a job where someone made my lunch and it was just there, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do. So now I'm packing my lunch and my son's lunch and
your son's snacks and your son's everything.
And making his bottles and everything like that. And we have to get him out of that. And I'm bringing him to daycare. So you know, and that means leaving the house at 6:15, 6:30 every day. And in the morning, I still have to do my physical therapy for my leg. And I have to get dressed and all this other. And I actually have to eat something before I walk out of the house.
That's crazy talk, Lauren.
Right. So I think January was just such a tough transition for us, just getting that. And then February was better. Like we started to figure out like, okay, so we have to help each other out. We have to figure this out. Yeah. And my husband and I kind of got into a groove. Not that he wasn't helping. It was just when you're tired and cranky and it's January and there's nothing to look forward to. Maybe you just nitpick on the tiniest things that don't matter.
And it's something new. So you don't know what you need in order to articulate what you need. And both of our husbands will do anything for us if we ask them. But even to this day, sometimes I don't even know what to ask for because I'm so overwhelmed. So then your needs aren't being met and you're tired and hungry and cranky. And so everything that they do, even if it's in the best intention, would make me want to scream.
Right. So, and my son started to get teeth at this point also. So.
Always great. Always great.
Right. So near the end of February, I would say, we had started a daycare. We started him at a daycare. Sorry. It's that kind of a day. And I was like 50-50 on it. My husband and I both had weird experiences at the daycare. And, you know, we had talked about, okay, next year, next fall, we'll maybe put him in a new daycare. And then like the beginning of March, I don't know what made me think, but some Monday I was like, I'm like, we're switching daycares.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just know it. And I called and I had made an appointment on Wednesday to go look at 2 other daycares in town. And that Monday, I had picked up our son from daycare, and that was the last time he ever went back there. I had a horrible experience. In one of my past episodes with my husband, I talk maybe a little more about it, but just about it was some mom intuition. I just knew that this was not the place for my son. Yeah. I knew that he was not being treated the way any child should be treated. And I just knew it. And I remember coming home being hysterical and being like, I'm never going back to work. I cannot believe I put my child in daycare. I cannot believe that I let him be in a place like this.
I feel like I got a similar text saying that too. And I was like, oh God.
And I remember my husband being like, he's not going back there. We're going to look tomorrow at new daycares and it's going to be okay. And I remember I was just like, I remember that Monday, I just felt, I just held my son. I don't think I let him down for 1 second. I just held him. I was with him. I kept crying that night. I cried so much.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next day, and I know a lot of times this is how it is. The next day it was like, okay, we have to figure this out.
Right.
We can do this. Like, we have appointments today. We went to go look at 2 places. The first place we went to was actually the place that I went to as a child.
Aww.
And I went there and we walked in there and I was like, okay, he's going here.
Sold.
It's okay. My child was loved. It was a small place. He is so loved at that place.
And you turned out all right. So.
Right, exactly. And some of the people who work there are not the same, but the building is the same and everything is the same there. But it's a small place, and it just is what my son needed. He needed love. He needed a place where everything wasn't a rule. Everything wasn't like...
Right. He just needed to be nurtured.
Right. Yeah. He needed to be himself, not this is baby number 4 of the day.
Right.
You know? So that was probably and I, like, at that point I was like, okay, well, he can go now to this place, but next year we'll see if I go back to work. So
wait, you're coming back to work,
yes,
right? Okay. Okay.
But it was still like, I was still in that phase where I didn't know if this place was going to work out. And my son started coming home. So Monday I took him out of the other daycare. Tuesday and Wednesday, they said he could start on that Wednesday.
Yeah.
I wasn't there yet. Like, I was still an emotional mess. They gave me, like, you get a code, to come into the building.
Yeah.
I lost the paper 4 times in 1 minute of me standing there. I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm like, I haven't slept in 3 days. I'm like,
yeah.
And, but I remember he went there for 2 days, that Thursday, Friday, and he was like a different kid. And then I felt even worse. I was like, I can't believe I waited that long to move him to this other daycare.
Yeah, but being so young, you know what he's like with you and with family. You didn't know what type of kid he would be coming back from daycare. So I would have just assumed, oh, this is what happens at daycare. Because would have no point of reference, which is probably where you were. You didn't know, like, oh, he's cranky. Oh, he's not really... like in the best mood, but maybe because he's so tired from daycare. Like there were so many ways that you could have written off what was happening without thinking, oh, he's just another baby in this baby mill.
Right. And he's teething. So like that was always my backfall. Like, oh, well, he's teething. Oh, well, he's teething. And then like he was there Thursday and Friday, and both times he slept for 2 hours in a row. My son had never slept for more than 45 minutes in a row. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm like, he slept. I'm sorry. I'm like, what? I'm like, he did not sleep this long.
You're lying. What baby were you looking at? Because it was not my child.
No. And he came home so different. He didn't need a nap anymore when he came home from daycare because he was actually sleeping. And that was the biggest thing. They taught him how to eat with his hands. I had been trying at home. I just think that these are experienced people. They know what they're doing. So I was just like, they taught him. In a week, my son was eating with his hands.
Like, I've been trying for months, but that's cool. You can take the credit.
And it's fine. I'm fine giving them the credit because when it came by to stop having bottles during the day, we tried putting milk in a sippy cup, and I tried and I was like, okay, well, I'll let them try to daycare because I can't do it. So, and they couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, so it's not just me. So I kind of like that not that it made me feel better. Like, oh, they can't do it either. Right. It was just,
you're just a human like me.
Right. It was just more like, okay. And I don't know, the daycare, we're working together. Like, they offer some ideas that I might want to try with him that they see that he does at daycare, as opposed to, well, he needs to work on this. And
well,
here's
that's
a list
great.
of the 10 things you should be doing at home. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, just tell me. Like, they had me do some walking stuff with him. Not that I wanted him to walk, but, just they like shoes. Like, I didn't know that there were certain new shoes that kids are supposed to wear or where to find them. And I just found out that they're expensive everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. And they wear them for like 2 months and then they've grown out of them. Yeah. And my kids at 10 are still doing the same thing.
Right. So I just like that better. And I think in May, what got me through, like April, we have a week off. So
That
I was
helps.
happy about that. And then in May, I was like, oh, well, we're going to get out of school way earlier than we normally do. I go, so this is actually going to be a long summer break. So I'll have this 10 weeks with him.
Yeah.
And it'll be perfect. So I think that helps. Of course, at this point, all teachers at this point of the year are like, I'm not going back.
No, I don't want to. Don't make me do it.
So some of that is just that feeling of, it's so nice to not be working. Like, obviously.
Man, if we didn't need health insurance, I could be a stay-at-home mom.
Exactly. But
I couldn't.
I definitely could easily.
Yeah, you could. You could take my kids, no problem.
I know. But I think that the best part is that, teacher or not teacher, you have that feeling. Or parent or teacher, you have that feeling of not going back. So I know that some of that is that. And the other thing is my son is very social. He likes to be around other kids. And I see in the summertime, like we'll do things with other kids, but not every day.
Right.
So I see those social skills and I'm like, okay, he needs this because he needs that practice. And I think about how much we practice certain things with him.
Right.
I'm like, those social skills are important too for him to learn. I don't want it to be that he's 3 and he's throwing a tantrum because someone took his car.
Right.
I need those skills for him. So I think that's just one of the things that makes me feel like, okay, it's all right. I'm putting him in daycare. And now
he gets those skills naturally in that setting. So you don't have to feel like you're depriving him of sharing, etc.
Right. And at this point, he's napping for 2.5 hours, 3 hours at daycare. So, okay, granted, that's when I could get stuff done, but that would happen when I'm at work anyway.
Right.
So it wouldn't matter. So I just kind of put it as, okay, so I'm not losing as much time with him.
Because he's sleeping for 2.5 hours.
Right. And then he gets up and he wants to be with me when he gets up.
Yeah.
So it's still hard to leave him. It's definitely going to be hard because I know this year, he didn't cry last year when I left him. He will be crying this year. He cries when I leave him with anyone at this point. So that's going to be tough. Not looking forward to that one at all.
My husband dropped my kids off the first time we sent them to daycare when I was going back to work because he knew I wouldn't be able to handle it. So I said goodbye to them at the house.
Yeah.
He was like, you have to do it here because they're not going to cry in the car with me. They're going to cry when they get to daycare. Now, my kids, they're social butterflies. They never cried once. I was like, well, don't you guys love me? What the heck? But the first time that he dropped them off, that's how we did it because he was like, I know you, and you would just call out of work and bring them back home.
Right.
I was like, yes, I would.
I know. And And I did take off his birthday. I don't know if I would ever be able to work on his birthday. I guess when he's
I never have to. So at first I was like, never? That's so strange. And then I was like, well, I can't even question it because I don't have to worry about it. My kids were born over the summer. I never work on their birthday.
Right.
That's why, when I thought about it, I was like, I've never even considered what I would do with my kid's birthday.
Right.
Because it's never been a question that I could make them whatever breakfast they wanted and bring them to do whatever they want to do and send them where they want to go. I've always been able to cater to them on their birthdays, which is something I like to do.
Right. And that's definitely what I want to do. I mean, I think your kids' birthdays are as much for you as they are for them.
Yeah. More for me because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be a mom. So they really should be thanking us on their birthdays for bringing them into the world. Let's be honest.
Exactly. So I definitely, that's just one thing I would always do. I would always make sure to do that. But we'd love to hear what you guys do and how your feelings are and any suggestions or anything like that. So I guess that will do it for today. So thank you, Taryn. And if you want to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the internet, our website, Mommy Escape Time for all of them. And we hope to hear from you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.